Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining. As always, I have to check how the viewership is happening because okay, all right, that's okay. Welcome to my channel. For those of you who are new here, and if it's your first time here, my name is Josephine. I'm very grateful that you've turned in. I'm a YouTuber. I've been here for a while, and recently I've started doing live streaming in order to be able to get more viewership, and also because I have a lot of time. A toddler that I'm staying in. Sorry, I need to adjust this. And I don't have enough time in the daytime hours to be able to vlog. And even if I vlog, I can't do as much vlogging as I'd like to, so that I can give the little fellow as much attention as possible. We're on a flight path, so there are going to be flights that are passing. Is the lighting good enough? Yeah, I decided not to use the spot where I normally am, so that I could use somewhere different, so I can use a straight backed, so I can have a straight backed chair, because I noticed that sometimes when I'm on the sofa set, I'm kind of getting tired very fast, and I have to sit to hold myself up just to feel comfortable. So I want to try and sit on this straight back chair. It's a plastic chair that I have in the house, and then see if this is going to, how this is going to help. Oh goodness, what's this? Oh, okay, I don't know how that is done. Yes, so welcome to my vlog. Today was my birthday. It was my 60th birthday, and I've just had a quiet day at home. Actually, I'm trying to edit the video right now to make sure that I have it out by morning. I'm not seeing this live, and I'm wondering if I have any setting wrong. Okay, let's see. Right. Oh goodness. How do I do this? How do I highlight this? Mhm. Oops, what did I cancel? I hope I didn't cancel the intro that I had done for the video, because I had done an intro and I just see I've cancelled something. This is frustrating, but I said that I'll keep on learning and I'm not going to give up. So today, the topic that I wanted to discuss was how we are different, but how we are similar, because we are a global village, and we are alike in so many ways, but again different in so many ways. And what made me think of this is that today I was thinking about the people who are my subscribers, um, who watch my channel, and the countries they come from. And I got thinking, asking myself, how much do I know about the countries that a lot of these people come from? How much do I know about where my viewers come from actually? And how do I understand them? I mean, I've been to a few countries. A few countries means Kenya and two other countries, which is by travel standards is almost zero, but it's better than nothing. But I get curious about what makes people tick, what makes people different. I mean, we are different in so many ways, but we are alike in so many ways. When I lived in Uganda, I saw how different they were. Oh gosh, I will try to change this. Okay, I saw how different they were. Again, how similar we were in so many ways. Oops, what am I pressing? Share screen? No, on that. Oh, that's fine. Uh, okay, okay, okay. All right. Now I see. I can see that. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm seeing new edit modes that I did not. Okay. Sorry that I'm doing a bit of investigation while I'm filming, but that has to happen. So this is just going to go on like this because technology and me, we are becoming friends. We are a bit different, but we are becoming friends. I didn't do that. Just didn't do that. Sure. Yeah. So thank you to the person who's on live and who's watching. And for those of you who are, it's 2:54 a.m. in Nairobi right now, and where I'm seated near the door. And as always, I like to ensure that I'm sitting close enough. I'm okay. I'll have to be not so loud so that baby doesn't wake up. I'll take my cushion for putting under the back. Oh, that cushion just now. Oh, a certain. Oh, I was wondering, oh, so high. Yeah, I was seated on the cushion. I need to support my back. I have to be as comfortable as possible with this. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. But because a lot of people haven't joined yet, you're just going to excuse me. I play around with everything and then I get cozy and comfortable. That's much better. Yeah. So let me start afresh. Hello and how are you? My name is Josephine and welcome to my channel. I like to introduce myself in the sense that I'm a Kenyan living in Kenya. I'm a sister, uh, sister, friend, daughter. I'm so many things in one. But most of all, I'm a person who loves people, not all people, but I'm a social person, and I'm a largely agreeable person. Sometimes I can be totally disagreeable, but lighting is not good. Excuse me. Yeah, that's better. I had the light on the side. Yes, that's better. So I'm a socially agreeable person, and I can say I can't say that I'm a total extrovert, but I can cope with people, different people in society. My 60th birthday today. How did I spend my day? It was just an ordinary day, and I had anticipated that that's how it was going to be, because I'm busy. It's a rainy season in Kenya, and the weather is topsy-turvy. Is it topsy-turvy? Like everywhere else in the world, seasons are not like they're supposed to be or like they used to be. So, because the rain came and it came unexpectedly and it came with so many effects. I hope I'm audible enough. Yeah. And it came unexpected. It came unexpectedly and then it came a lot. And in earlier years, when it was very standard, the usual times of that rain would come, then it would be very easy for people to know when you're going to be planting, when you're going to be harvesting, when you're going to be cultivating the ground and everything. But now we have to follow the weather, not follow the pattern of the weather, but just follow the weather as it comes. And so when the rain first came, I was so busy with other things and I didn't get to plant. And then I've just had to plant recently. So I have if it was the usual weather, I'd be planting late and praying to heaven that I'd get a crop. But now with this weather, nobody knows because people started planting almost 2 months ago, and there are people who are still planting. I mean, I can see neighbors, I can see friends, I have relatives who are still planting. And this is very unusual, and especially for us here where I stay in Ruai, normally it will be everybody is planting within the same time, in a time frame of about 3 weeks, not even a month, not even a full month, in a time frame of about 2 to 3 weeks. At least that's how it used to be when I got here. But now everything is really, really erratic. So um people are, I was watching several videos today in the evening after baby went to bed, and then I noticed one thing, that villages are villages. From so many videos that I've watched, whether you're watching a village in Romania or a village in China or a village in Mozambique, villages are villages. And but what is different is how the villagers of certain countries think and behave and react towards different things. For example, what their priorities are, how their housing is. It's so different, and that's something to appreciate so much. And it's also something that I'm learning now with YouTube, so that you can understand what kind of viewers you have. I noticed that also rich people, what we consider rich in Africa, is not what the Europeans might consider rich, is not what the Chinese might consider rich, is not what, for example, somebody from South America might consider rich. Africans focus a lot on the value of land, on land inheritance. Africans value very much dressing up, and dressing up in a certain way. I think every African country has, I think, and this comes from colonialization. Yeah, that one comes from that. In many African countries, there's a sort of standard accepted way of dressing officially, um, dressing officially, and then dressing African, because Africans were very unique about, not Africans, very, very, I stand corrected. Many countries are very unique about having national dress or common cloth, which is known for a ceremonial cloth. But one thing about the West is that it's casual dressing. People are not judged by how they dress. In Africa, we judge people a lot by how we dress, but in the West, it's not like that. And I think it's not usually a culture shock for very many people that Europeans can go into meetings, very executive meetings, dressed in jeans. In Africa, we can't do that. I mean, even in when you're in official capacity and you go for meetings and you're dressed in jeans, sometimes it might cause, it might make people think that you're either disrespecting them or something. So that's one thing different. And then we also have tribal links, not only tribal but also cultural. And I know it's also the same in Asia, and also in I know also in, I don't know how it is in Europe, how the villages, whether the people are related, because sometimes I see uh they'll marry. Oh my goodness, is that a drizzle? Yes, that's a slight drizzle. I'm just being careful about it, because here when it rains, it means if it hits on the roof hard, I'll not be able to talk. But when that happens, it will happen. I thought it was the fridge, but it's actually a slight drizzle. Yes, because it was very cloudy and it was very hot today, and it looked like it was set to rain. So, for example, I know countries in Europe that, especially those that came from the Eastern Bloc, Russia, they have a lot of similarity also with Africans, and especially the ones that have an Islam, is it not really, Islamic religion. they follow tradition almost like Africa. I mean, they want to marry either fellow Muslims or relatives or clans, that there's a set way of interclan marriage that has to be arranged so that they keep things within certain regulations, within certain clans if it's marriage, but not they are not totally Western as we call the West. Although now they're integrated within Europe, they still have their old cultural ways. And so sometimes I think that's why they'll relate to videos of some of us in Africa when we're talking about family life, and they relate to that. But in some aspects, we are very different. When I went to the Netherlands, I went to the Netherlands on a certain visit. And when I got there, because we were working a lot with government, we had NGOs involved in the project I went for, but we also had a lot of government. Government was the main sponsor. And one thing which I found very unique, and which I think I've talked about in like several videos, is the fact that Europe allows young people to take leadership. You know, in Africa, if you find people, it's very, let me not say if you find, it's very rare to find people in their 20s or 30s having positions in government and prime positions that demand a lot of discipline and have a lot of decision making, heavy decision making, and permanent jobs at that. The norm in most African countries is that youth will be taken to be people who just need some sort of coaching. And the younger they are, they'll always be relegated to very um, much lower scale jobs. And even if they're quality jobs, a lot of the decision making will be left to senior executives within the same offices, simply by virtue of the age. I mean, the protocol will be such that older people have to what to accept or to veto the decision of the younger people before it can be passed on to higher levels. And then we get to Europe and we're in the Netherlands, and I'm looking at the people who are around us, and I'm in chatting with them, I start finding out that a lot of them are in their 20s, are in their 30s, and they were this was an office that was the minister's office, and so very key personnel. And for me, that was perhaps one of the biggest cultural shocks that I got, because I know that in Africa, let me not even say in Africa, in Kenya, yeah, that would be very unique. It would be very hard to find. Of course, now as governments, as Kenya has got younger leaders, and for example, in this regime and the previous one, when we've had at least people who are relatively younger taking leadership of the helm at the top of the leadership at the helm of the country, presidential leadership, we've seen a lot more youth coming in. But for me, that was very surprising. And and then I learned that it shouldn't come as a shock, because um, what we define as grown up and mature in Africa is not the same as probably in the West. Because in the West, if when it comes to at work spaces, that is, in the West, it doesn't matter your age, but if you have the set qualifications that are required, then you fit the job. In Africa, it's not the same. You might have qualifications that surpass what's needed for the job, but because of your age, you'll always be relegated to a lower position. But I like it that, in some sense, we are like a lot of the third world countries. The priority influence is religion, and there are diverse ways that religion influences mass behavior. But I think if I look at what I see in documentaries on different social media, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on TikTok, the the more people are culture. Okay, let me not say the more people are cultural, but sorry, but when there's what cultural, when people are very tied to culture, to age-old cultures, then they'll have what they'll be they'll have very strict reasons as to why they can't follow some of the now what we call global norms and cultural behaviors, because they'll always be a group of people, and usually it's the elder people who are sticking or want to stick to the cultures, to the age-old cultures, and these are people who are not very open-minded. And that's, I guess, that's a similarity everywhere. And again, as I said, this is what will also then make people get attracted to some channels, because they relate with how some of there's that similarity of for example, if it's where I am, if there are some norms that we stick to because of traditions and cultural beliefs, and then the person who's watching also has that. When it comes to food, I'm so surprised because what we call hunger in Africa, particularly, let me say in Kenya, is different from what the West considers as hunger. Um, I know I've discussed with a lot of people, and we find it so strange that for example, how we grew up knowing the West, especially let me talk about America, and this is what we saw from movies, what we saw from films and from programs, set programs, TV programs, and all that, is that people never seemed to lack food. Now, of course, you know that there are poor people in every city. It's not just an African thing that we have beggars, but for us, it was so surprising that even people who were being portrayed as poor, and of course, sometimes the film industry is so manipulative. It likes to show what it wants to portray. So it might portray that you know even when you're poor, you can afford to drink milk from a bottle in the house. And probably now it's not like it was in the 70s and in the 80s and 90s, where sometimes you look at what is being portrayed as poor in some of the Western countries, and you're asking yourself, what's poor about this? These people don't really have poverty. And in the same breath, when I say that, I must say that when it comes to levels of poverty in Africa, probably we're very lucky. And I think maybe because there isn't what okay there's the gap between the rich and the poor, but we do, we poverty for us is spelled differently. I mean, in some countries, poor means not having a proper education. Poor might mean not having a good diet. Poor might mean not affording to travel frequently. Poor might mean not affording insurance. But in Africa, and I like saying sometimes, let me not generalize Africa, because in some nations it's slightly different. But in Kenya, for example, not affording insurance is not considered poor. Some of the people that might be called poor still have land, still are able to have 3 meals a day. There's destitute and there's poor, but because poverty is monetized so much, then a lot of Africans are seen to be poor, where they're just where they just don't have their priorities right, or they're just caught in between situations. But if push comes to shove, then you realize that a lot of Africans might not actually be poor. They're just sitting in limbo, and because they are not getting the opportunity. And if you ask them, opportunity for what, they'll say it is opportunity to be rich, because in their mind, what rich is not affording to have the best schools for your children and all that. It is having the luxury to waste money. That might and that's why I'm saying that rich might look so different in different countries, because uh, of course in the West we consider them so wasteful in so many things when they're rich. That's how we see it. Of course, it's not that it's waste, But there are many things that there are many things that are taken for, that we don't take for granted, that we take for granted in Africa. That thinking that, okay, not that we take, is it we take for granted? Yes, we take it for granted that of course we have land, and even if you become poor, what's going to happen is that you might not have access to some things, but rarely will you become totally homeless. I mean, for the people, not the elite people, but the people on the ground to whom wealth is spelled differently. But in European countries, for you, poverty means not having health insurance, not having access to credit cards. That's so different. I mean, because for us, we are like, why would you use credit cards when you have money? When you can, you can trade, when you can dig your own land, when you can hire servants. But you now have to have an understanding of how differently people live. And again, that brings me back to what I was discussing some time back and what I've been talking about in recent videos. If people read more, if people are diversify more into what it is that they are watching, what it is that they are um, discussing, what it is that they are viewing, then they'll come to these understandings. For I also look sometimes at homes of average citizens and compare with homes in Kenya. There are similarities, but there are also differences. I was looking at no, that's not Malaysia. Was it Malaysia? I don't know whether it was Indonesia or Malaysia. And I was so surprised because I was like, they they don't have land like us. Of course, one thing about us is that Kenya is such a big country. It's such a big country. And then again, why I'm saying that we have different views of wealth is that there are countries, for example, I saw one of the leading YouTubers in Kenya who has a girlfriend from one of the South American countries, and she was saying that for them in their country to own land is it's only the very wealthy who can afford that, because the taxes that you're paying on your land, even developing the land, is so expensive. And she comes into this country, and the boyfriend's father is giving her a piece of land, and people are just buying land left, right, and center. But you see, for us, though uh, that what is seen as wealth, then the difference now we have is that the laws in other countries dictate that if you have massive pieces of land, you must have them developed. And we don't have that. Well, we have some sort of regulation like that in Kenya, but it's not as strict. So you find that landowners sometimes don't think themselves rich. And yet when you go to places where land is utilized as an asset to the very to the top limit of how much it can uh, someone can reap out of it, the value of the land, out of the value of the land, you begin to wonder then what is rich. Should we have global levels of richness, of wealth? But that comes from a national level, because in Kenya, even if you have this land, and if you do not have the wisdom to know what to do to trade with this land, it will just slip out of your hands, or you'll just lead a life that doesn't have a lot of value, yet you have a lot of this wealth. But if more people traveled globally, if more people went to other countries, if more people even learned about other countries deliberately, learning about other countries and how their peers live, and what affects their peers, it would help a lot of, let me speak for Kenya, it would help a lot of Kenyans to understand and to know that they are very wealthy. And sometimes, of course, this is something that is argued when the question of people traveling abroad for jobs comes up. And sometimes professionals will say that a lot of Kenyans don't even need to go for jobs. Like now we have the issue of young men who are recruited to go to Russia, and on the promise that they are going to get jobs with the qualifications they have. And then they get into Russia and they find that they are being recruited into the war, and almost forcibly at that, and that it's all a scam. It was not about jobs. But you see, sometimes these are lessons that teach people that you're living your own land where you have freedom to do whatever it is you want with your property, and you're going to fight for a country where majority of the people, even the wealthy ones, could not even afford a quarter of the piece of land that you have back home. They do not even have half of the freedoms that you have in your own country. They cannot talk freely. They cannot move freely. They can't just wake up one day and decide, I can relocate and go to and live in another town, because there's war to the left, there's war to the right, there's limitations of what you can speak in public. You can only own certain things, you can't own other things. And so we sometimes belittle ourselves without knowing that we are so blessed, we are so rich, and we are so busy comparing ourselves to other people that we think have made it, they're there. And then something bad happens, and then you sit back, and those people are looking at you and they're just thinking, look at this one. We wish we were in their position, and they're busy despising their own position, which is such a privilege. And so I can say that learn to value yourself, learn to love yourself, learn to know that you're so valuable in so many things and in so many ways. And it is with that mindset that sometimes when I feel low about my YouTube channel, I sit down and I say, I know I'm privileged in very many ways, and I should use this privilege positively. There are very many people my age. I have some of the friends that I've made on social media, and a few we've met because of the work that we are doing, and we've just had gracious and blessed opportunity to meet. And you know, when you talk to people, your peers who from afar you've admired them and you've been like, oh, this one is doing well, this one is doing so well. I mean, I'm so behind, I can't compare myself. I mean, the level they are at. And then you meet them, and then you start hearing about how they are limited by their 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 the nationalities that they are, the situations in their countries. They have so many limitations. And then you're like, oh, what? I thought, you have all this. And they're just like, no, I'm earning a lot of money, but I'm able to do very little in my own country because of the laws, because of situations of war, because of situations of, what can I say, constitutional limitations. And wow, I sit back and I say, I'm so blessed to be in Kenya. I mean, I love it. I can also realize from watching other YouTubers, just generally, not necessarily my peers in this case, but other YouTubers who are shooting from different parts of the world. Somehow, a lot of the people who are in developing countries and and third world countries, let me say, developing and third world countries, they have a sort of freedom and freenessness, and there's something that is very endearing about their vlogging, because it's so homely, it's so comfortable, it's so settled. But the more you get into more developed countries, the vloggers, you find that there's a seriousness about everywhere they go, except of course when they're in homes. But even when they're in homes, I mean, unless they're with a close family, you find that there's a sort of, what can I say, artificiality about the surroundings that they are in, because the pace of life is so fast that it doesn't allow for some of the comforts that we have when the wealth is not so much about us. And if at all there's that set of relaxation, it's within certain groups of people, and sometimes they'll not open that freedom to just anybody unless you're one of them. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but among less fortunate people, you find that the atmosphere in vlogging is a bit much more relaxed. But as you go upper class, you find there's a bit of rigidity because there's also a world that upper class people don't like to show when they're together to the common man. And it's different from the lower level. We want to showcase everything that we have. There's nothing to hold back. So I was thinking, what do I know? What is one thing I know about people from the countries who watch me? If it comes to America, I know that Americans smile very broadly. That's one thing that has always amazed me since I was a child. That, in Kenya, we used to smile. And over time, I've realized that it's also because Americans, for a long time, have had very keen and good dental attention. So smiling broadly and wide and in a laughing, even with teeth apart, and it's something that a lot of African people from African countries have had to learn. Of course, Gen Z would not understand that, but if you look at our photos going very many years back, you'll find that that's one thing that was not common. Next country, United Kingdom. The UK, one thing I know is that about their housing, and it's still surprising up to now, the fact that they have small houses. Since forever, when I've watched English movies, and I love old English movies very much. The one thing that surprised me, of course, they have their manors and they have their castles, but the common man's house was always, even from age-old books in previous centuries, the thing that has always shocked me is their small houses. And I think that has contributed a lot to the way they behave, their mannerisms, and why they are so um, not all of them, of course, depending on the upbringing, but there's a courteousness that has come from living in very closed quarters, and having to cope with, what with being in a constricted space. The next country is Canada. Canadians, I can say they're stiff-necked compared to the Americans. The brush older brother. That's just what I know. And then the oddity that they speak French. Uh, that's a queer thing for me for a long time to understand. I guess I'd have to look at Canadian history and how the French came to be in Canada. Then South Africa. South Africa, of course, it's the apartheid period. That is what stands out for me. And then the Zulu Shona interaction. I've interacted with several South Africans, and knowing that there's almost a tribalism, even with the apartheid, is one of the biggest shockers that I've received. That's South Africa. Kenya. Kenya is my homeland. So Kenyans are hardworking. Kenyans are go-getters. Yeah, that's what I know about my country. Another country is Uganda. I lived in Uganda for 12 years, and their courteousness, uh, uh, that impressed me. Ugandans and Ghanaians are, I can call them the British of Africa. Those are the African nationalities, according to the African nationalities I've met. And I was very impressed with them. Not to say, of course, that they cannot be different, but I'm just speaking in general. And a lot of the influence also is from, if you delve into the tribal, different tribe cultural values, norms, and traits, you learn that that's a commonality almost among all the tribes there. What other country? The Tanzanians. The Tanzanians, of course, are very docile, and Tanzanians don't come at me, but that's how we know you. We, like US is to Canada, Kenya is to Tanzania. We are the brush older brother or sister, and you're the polite, docile little one. But now, of course, things are turning differently, and we are glad to have you as our young sister who is picking up and having a voice of her own to speak. Okay, which other country has a lot of followers? Australia, some. Australia is not so much. It's a country that's in between there, yes. For Australians, of course, I remember one time I met an Australian, and this was in the 90s, I think. And at that time, I think that's when mental awareness was coming in, and a lot of people were going to see psychiatrists. And he told me that for it was a joke, but the way he put it was that in Australia, if you say you're going to see a psychiatrist, they'll ask you, why don't you have friends? And that kind of painted the picture for me of who Australians are. They say, they tell it as it is, and I respect them for that. Who else do you have? India. India is the one place on my bucket list that I'd like to travel. India is, as Kenya is magic. Kenya is too magical as India is too awesome, awesome and vibrant. Yes. So I'd like to visit India for so many reasons. So many reasons. It's one of the countries which uh, draws me in so many aspects. I love Bollywood, first of all. I'm a huge, huge fan of Indian music. And I like the fact that for them in Bollywood, something that, and I can compare Bollywood to Hollywood. When you see the hero movies of India and you compare to the hero movies of the States, when you follow up on the history of the movie making and the real history of the star, the person who's being highlighted as a hero or heroine, um, you'll find that the way the Indians, the way Bollywood does it is that it brings so many small details out. And I don't know whether I'm giving a fair comparison, but Americans will, in my opinion, that is, Americans will always try to put out to you, what do you call it, propaganda. They have the baseline story correct, the script according to the story that they are telling, but they are going to put up a lot of propaganda into the movie to show you even aspects. Even if it was historically, they are going to wipe out what they don't want you to know, even if it had been happening, if it is going to reflect America badly, even if they want to reflect something that was bad that was happening in that era, they'll wipe out a lot of things depending on what class of people or category of uh, persons they want to protect. In India, they bear it. For me, it's just as simple as that. So I prefer to watch Bollywood hero documentaries and movies, and then the rest of just Nollywood. No, sorry, not Nollywood, Bollywood productions. Uh, those are the top countries, and then Nigeria. Nigeria, I respect Nigeria because they have such a huge number of people who are very intelligent and who are very thoughtful and who are very forward thinking. It's a very sad situation what has come to be globally known as Nigeria, as a land that just produces thugs and con people. But now that the veil is getting drawn and is getting off, I must say that, in my opinion, I think Nigeria would not have been in this problem if it was not because of interference. If you follow through again, even if it is because of the oil, it was not, it's a lot of interference from other nations that have built this. And so I know if Nigeria had just, the story of Burkina Faso, if Nigeria had not had interferences at an earlier stage, this would not be happening. And another thing I know about Nigeria is that the Boko Haram issue, that's very, very sad. And I wish more and more. I mean, I know Nollywood is producing all these movies that they're doing now. I wish they would do more of historical Nigerian content, because Nigeria has given the world so many people that can be lauded and applauded and emulated by masses of people all over the world, but they just choose to do this what I can call African fiction. And I don't like it. I don't like a lot of Nollywood productions, but I have watched Nigerian movies, old movies, and that had a lot of depth that I can compare to what Bollywood produces and what a lot of uh, China also produces. If Nigeria could do a bit more of that educative, I think they'd be at a better place. Maybe they are doing it and I'm not aware. Somebody tell me. Another African country that follows me. No, oh yeah, Germany. Germany, we knew Germany for a very long time in the old Kenya. When I say old Kenya, I mean those of us who are teens in the 80s. So we knew Germany as a very innovative, a country that has a lot of technical innovation and also fun-based innovation. I mean, what I used to watch about Germany, let me not say what I used to watch about Germany, is that they had sports events that were so wildly interesting, that had people dressed up in all sorts of manner, that had different sports. And in my mind, I was always like, these people have so much money to spend. They must be so wealthy, because how do you even afford all these costumes, and where do all these costumes go after they're used? And for you to be able to make them more, I mean, I'd like to get into the history of how that happened, because Germans seem to always have been able to create stories and then put them into reality as acting, as field games, as and I can't. It's so funny that when I think of Germans as what as technical innovators, and then at the same time as playful, there's just a mismatch. And so yeah, that's Germans for me as I understand them. Germany. Okay, which other country that has viewers? Or Russia? Yeah, Russia. The people of taking hard drinks because of the weather. And one thing that historically I knew about Russians is secretiveness. This has come, of course, from watching movies and everything, reading novels and all that. Being very good at secretiveness and organization, I must say, and that is coming from, and that is derived from having to live under regimes that were very strict. And so you're run like a machine that you operate in such an orderly fashion that is similar to everybody around the country. So it makes them, I guess, very systematic, very planned, and very organized, and without a lot of room for play. I might be different, but it may be different, but that's how I'd think of them. Then another country is Egypt. I think maybe a lot of Kenyans do not know, might not be knowing, but Egypt is an economic giant in Africa. Yeah, so I know that we purchase a lot from Egypt. We have a lot of imports from Egypt, and they produce a lot. I mean, Egypt is like a small Turkey of Africa, and the only badness is that the Arab the Arab-led countries in Africa don't have on a what at a local level, they don't have very close interaction. We don't have very close interaction. I mean, you'll not find a lot of locals in the street who are talking about how they know about Egypt, apart from apart from the pyramids and all that. But Egypt is largely a manufacturing country, and then it also produces a lot. It also produces a lot of food. So yeah, Egypt is an intriguing country, but the fact of religious difference and leadership and its involvement, sometimes okay, it's been a part of the Arab League. Um, yeah, I guess it's just another country, but not somewhere that I'd be so eager to visit or anything. I like, of course, about Egypt, the fact that it's an old world Nubi kingdom. Yeah, I'm not for thinking about the the Egyptians as people know them, the builders of the pyramid. No, I like the narrative of it being a nobiled uh, kingdom that created the pyramids and that had the ancient what uh, sophistication. And that's why, of course, the sphinx's noses were cut off and everything. But again, this is my different kind of thinking. So you'll pardon me for that. What other countries? There, Malaysia, Indonesia. Yes, Indonesia. I have friends in Indonesia, but at the same time, I just got perplexed. I was so surprised that I had people watching from Indonesia. When a country is noted on your analytics, that means that there's a substantial number of people. I mean, it could be 400, it could be 300, it doesn't matter, but it's substantial enough to have a percentage. And so it's put as one of the nations that has followers. But Indonesia is also very cultural, so they have a lot of similarity with us because of our affiliation to family. Indonesia is also largely Muslim, and we also have Muslims here, but I think it's more of their cultural tradition more than their religion that they relate, and some of them probably might relate to a lot of my vlogs, and especially when it comes to issues and matters family. And then apart from that, of course, the fact that I have friends there. Okay, which other country? Which other country where I've had followers from? Mm, uh, Portugal. Yeah, I had, but that came on very briefly. But that's, I guess that's just because it's a European country, and then there are a lot of people. I mean, one thing about Europe is that it's the continent. Yeah, it's a continent, yes, but uh, in Europe as a whole, people are the movement of people is so fluid, and it has been fluid for so many years and for so many centuries. And so I would not be very surprised if a lot of the people that view me, um, though they might be sitting in one country, they might be nationals of another country. And so they are very fluid. People are moving from one city to another city, or or they have periods when they're in one country and then moving to the other country. And so probably when they get into conversation or in interaction, then my channel is mentioned or there's a sharing. And so I can't say there's any other really particular reason why I'd have followers in certain countries in Europe specifically who come in at a time and then go back. And then I also have periodically I talk about mixed race marriage and marriage between young African girls and older European men. And we have a lot of Kenyan couples that I follow on the internet who are that the same applies also to Poland, and who are married into those countries and who have very large followings. So again, that might also come from viewers who also view these channels. And so what gets around, there's this channel run by this lady called Josephine, and she was discussing this. And of course, people will be talking about what might have been talking about that was correct, or what might I have been talking about that was wrong. And yeah, I can guess. And then because of that, that's when the people will come in just specifically to watch a match. And again, I'm making assumption. I don't know what is happening in those households that watch me, but that's how generally I think. And then deep in South America, I think for a while I had a few countries that had people watching. And again, I think it's the same thing. Probably one or two people who, and then I was in dating apps a lot, of course. And one thing about educated people is that if you see somebody in a dating app and you want to check them out, of course you'll go online and you'll browse them and see who they are. And so when I see from some of these countries people who just come in periodically for very short stints of time and then get back off, I know that some of them, it might be that they just decided to look me up because they've met me in a dating app. And I think there's recently, not in a long while, but in the past, like maybe 4 months or so, I think in one or two apps, because I think now if I'm in any dating app, it's probably only just one. And I haven't been inside, I haven't been active in almost 2 entire months. Like I said, when I was not busy, I had all this time to think about dating and taking chances uh, with dating apps. But now I'm too busy for that, and I got just so tired of meeting people who are totally not serious, or just looking for time to waste online, or I've done this for so many years. They absolutely have no direction, leading to what I'm looking for as an older woman, especially living with HIV. And so that's what I presume, of course. And also, I make these assumptions because what my analytics shows me uh, percentages when it comes to whether it's men who are following me or women. And when I see that based on some topical issues that I talk about, it's men who will be on the lead by far, about 70%, and women at a lower level. Then I'll know that these are men who just pick up and come in randomly. They probably just have my channel hanging in there in the background. And then when I do a topic of interest, they'll come and watch the channel. But when I'm doing my usual business, I'm around the house, I'm with children, I'm in church, I'm at functions, weddings, they're not really interested. So, and I appreciate it. I mean, if you watch my channel for even 20 minutes, it still adds up towards my monetization. It still adds up towards my reachability. It still adds up towards the algorithm finding for me people of similar interest, and so broadening um, the capability of my channel being viewed by so many more people. And so I appreciate it. And I'll keep on diversifying as much as possible my topics that I discuss, the issues that talk about, the places that I go, the content that I produce, and that I showcase about my life, about my home, about my community, about my work, so that everybody has a small section where they can appreciate and they can feel involved, and they can have something to like and to hang on to, and to digest with pleasure. And today, maybe one person will like what I'm doing. Then tomorrow, somebody else's turn. Maybe somebody wants to hear me talking. Somebody wants to see me in action. Another person wants to see with my family. Another person is only interested in hearing about my work. Another person just wants to learn about my interaction, probably with what with family. Another person just likes it when I'm laughing. And if I'm able to do a bit of everything every once in a while, that's enough. So I'll keep on trying, and I'll keep on getting motivated by you watching. You, my viewers, you're my biggest cheerleaders. You're the people who make me want to continue this. And now that I've turned 60, oh my goodness, um, I was thinking about what slogan would be good for if someone asked me, what do you feel about 60? I'd say that 60 feels just like just like another ordinary day at 59. Yeah, there's no um what there's no zap moment of feeling that wow, this is now 60, this is not 59. No, it's just a transition of numbers or figures of data that has changed, but for the person, it's always a gradual transition to what the new year, the new age, the new era is like. So I'll keep on praying that everything goes well. I'm going to keep it here. I'm going to hope that we are going to go so much further together. And I pray that God may bless you. I'm going to have the other video out by morning, and that's in about 4. Oh goodness, it's 4. This is in about probably 4 hours at most. And I hope you like it. If you like it, if you're first time here, please like and subscribe. If you're a repeat viewer, thank you so much. I appreciate it. My views are now at 44,200 since the channel started. I was just at 39 the other day. And then I look up this morning and I'm like, not this morning, I think in the evening before I came on, because I was checking so that I can put it in my video for just as a tag to let people know. And I appreciate, I'm very, very grateful to all of you for having taken me this far. Oh my goodness. That gives me more and more encouragement. I'll keep on doing this. And I appreciate you all so much. And just so that you can know my dedication, I'm awake at, this is coming to 4 a.m. because it's 3:49 a.m. Okay, it's not, it's way past 3:30. So I can say it's about 4 a.m. And I've been editing most of the night. And I had a busy day today. I had a very busy day. But I've told myself that I'm going to be sacrificing because this is work. This is work. And this year, I'm not going to procrastinate. So I don't want to sit comfortably. I'll sit comfortably when I get to my goal. But for now, just for you, my subscriber, for you, my viewer, I'm going to take the time. And it's also giving me immense joy. You know, it's like having a secret friend, but another friend. So you want to impress this new friend. So you're all my new friends. And I'll try and do the best I can for you. And it also keeps an update for my friends and relatives who are not in touch with me all the time. They know that even if I'm not calling Jose, there are some friends who call me Jose. That's a name that was common for me since high school very much. And they're like, oh yeah, I'll just watch her videos and then I'll know what's cutting. Or if it's my relatives, they'll be like, oh, I haven't seen one day in a while. I haven't spoken to her. And they know that if they check on the channel, then they can get updated on what's happening. And I'm glad for that. And I guess that's the purpose of my starting this channel, so that I can open up my life to you in as much as possible for you to know what's happening. So I thank you very much. I appreciate you. May God bless you and guide you and protect you and meet you at your point of need. Thank you very much and have a good day or a good night, wherever it is in the world you're watching. And stay happy and stay safe and make sure to give somebody and make somebody smile today. Bye bye. Okay, how do I do this? Yes.